Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRN-FM, and I'm joined by the amazing Michael J. Russ. I want to welcome you, Michael, to the show. And we have a very special treat. We have back with us Carol Collins, who is a channel for the teachers. And for those of you who have not been able to join us for one of the episodes with Carol, you are absolutely in for the most delightful time. She has been absolutely so busy. She's been featured on Next Level Soul. You have been with Lee Carroll. You have been doing so many different things. And so we are absolutely honored to have you here, Carol. I want to just welcome you and welcome the teachers. And after I welcome you, I'll just explain a little bit about what you do, unless you would like to do that.
Oh, gosh. Well, I just say hi to everybody, to you guys. Every month I love these conversations that we have every month, and I look forward to it. And so, hi, everybody that's listening. I'm a channeler, and it's a little-known ability within the mediumship community, and it is conveying conversation from non-physical guides and also loved ones, but it's conveying teaching in an out-loud way. Some spiritual circles, they call it trance channeling. I am what I like to call a light alpha state. So I'm awake. I can feel my mouth moving. I can feel some warmth around my jaw, and it's just like a little notice. It's like a little tender hi, how are you? And it gives me the signal. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. The sensation on my jaw. It's very gentle, and it's like a signal that the words that are coming next are from my non-physical team. And, my personal guide calls himself James, but the teachers are all of the beings that he has pulled together, and they're the ones that write the books and teach the workshops and, do all of those things. They're always in the readings, and they're powerful. And what they teach is existentialism. It's conscious reality, how non-physical life really, what it really is and what it is not. And, of course, law of attraction, because we all need help with manifesting and finding a way to have good, positive self-talk. And then, what's the truth about energy healing? How do you do it? Is it real? Does it work? And then teach all the aspects about that. And then how to step into intuition and then mediumship, because they are two different things. And so they've really made a concerted effort to say, this is the body of knowledge that we are teaching, and they segregate it, they color code it, because they call it the 4 pillars of learning. Each pillar aligns to a certain chakra, and so when you're reading or listening to them teach on a certain pillar, that chakra system is also getting some energetic attention. And so, all the material that I put out is color coded. So I'm a visual learner. I was a sight reader, and so to me, it's just like, oh, well, that's nice. Just pick up the blue book. If you're, having a hard time coming up with the right words, or you've got a meeting coming up or an interview and you want to have confidence, well, that has to do with interacting with yourself and interacting with people. How you feel about yourself and how you feel about other people, well, that's the blue-red combination, because your root chakra is the one that causes you to think the way you think and behave the way you behave. And so it's just a nice suite of material, and it's neatly categorized. And for my logic kind of mind, it just fits perfectly with my personality. And I think it's a good contribution to the whole channeled community.
It truly, truly is. I had the blessing last evening of participating in one of your classes. And I will tell you, I explained to Michael, I said that there was a healing that occurred. There was such a loving presence in the channeling. I just felt so elevated and so much at peace, and I really want to extend a great big thank you to you and the teachers, because it was truly a gift for me. I felt so grounded and so centered, and there was such a sense of joy, and it's sort of like, for me, finding that pathway back to love. Last week on the show, Michael and I spoke about love and how we go beyond the surface definitions of love, and how love oftentimes is other people's perceptions that are imposed on us. And when I was in the class and just listening and receiving, the love that I felt was far deeper than any force that I could even express. To me, it was just boundless. It was source energy. It was, I guess, the enabling me to truly trust. I jokingly before the show, I said, had to mow the lawn, and Michael said, well, you better get going. It normally takes me half an hour. And I heard from my guide, you're going to have enough time. And guess what? I had 5 minutes to spare before we did the show.
Yeah.
And I just knew that it would be done. It was going to be done because I didn't have to second guess, like, oh, no, allow my monkey mind to doubt what my guide was telling me. And I'm so happy because that's one more thing off my plate. So I just want to say thank you.
Let's just say that you're so welcome. You're so welcome. So there's so many things that I can say. But first of all, just for all the listeners, Lisa is a meditator, and she does daily silent meditation. And that's what's needed to be able to bring mediumship to the surface. So, it's not a beginner thing to be able to mow the lawn and then have a thought come to you that wasn't yours. We all have good thoughts. And when we are doing something that we enjoy, sometimes we do talk to ourselves and say, I think I can get this done. I've got a lot of confidence today. I'm sure I can get it done. And that's not the same as suddenly it's not a different voice. Now, that's psychic. That's different. But suddenly having an awareness that a gentle conveyance says it's going to be okay. Don't dilly-dally. Don't dilly-dally.
Right.
But it's going to be okay. And so that's just for the listeners. You're not a medium overnight. It does take, and that's what the teachers talk about, is the mechanics and the process, and also the mastery, because it is a skill, but it's also an occupation. And it is, personal enrichment, although, and I'm going to use the example that they gave Monday night. They said, if you want to be a plumber, you need to go to school, and you need to create mastery. Otherwise, it's not a good idea to go fix somebody else's sink. And so you might try to fix your sink, and it's okay if you make a mistake and, you go back and forth, but you're not harming your reputation and your life and your livelihood. You're learning by doing, and a lot of us do that. We learned to ride a bike, and we had to put our foot down. We had training wheels. Maybe we fell down, but we practiced. With mediumship, it requires silent meditation for a long time. But also, fun fact for you, if that session really caused you to have this awareness that healing was being done, and it is, there's always a push of energy through a channeler, through the solar plexus. I would say bookmark that replay, because that energy is in the video. And so if you play it in the background when you're working or while you're driving and you got, it's like a podcast, it's a class, that energy flows into the room that you're in. But if you sit and you listen to it again with the intention to feel the healing, then it comes through again. It is boundless, and what a beautiful word. And earlier today, it's so funny how things just kind of line up in these monthly conversations. Earlier today, they were talking to someone in a channel conversation, and they were answering some questions on how do I take notes in class? How do I pay attention and hear and learn and take notes? And they said the first time don't. The first time just listen. However, if you feel tingly sensation, usually your legs and kind of cascading up and down, or if something piques your interest, write the time down so that you can go to the replay and then speed up to that section and then listen to it, take notes, rewind it, listen to it, make sure your notes are correct. Or, if you feel those tingly sensations, just sit back and receive the energy. And so it's in the video for you to go back and just, so it's not a one-time. It is boundless, but it's also available to listen to again and again and again whenever you need a little pick-me-up.
Right.
Because the energy is there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for any of our audience members who are curious about how you can access that information, you can go to channelingtheteachers.com. So it's channelingtheteachers.com, and you will find so much information, not just on the workshops and the classes that I'm participating in, but it's just a plethora of information, including the magazine. And Carol, you and the teachers have just been working so hard. I have to applaud you because the new website is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thanks. It's a labor with love. And I'll say that because I love doing it. But it was so time-consuming to learn a new setup and the new controls. But, this is funny. For any listener that's ever tried to put a website together, if you do your mobile device and your tablet or iPad and your laptop, there's all different settings, and you've got to move things around on each one so that they all look right on the same one. Anyway, so I was having a hard time with some of them, and I put it down with a little bit of frustration one night. And then the next day, as I'm just sitting there and I'm stepping out of meditation, then my guide came through and he said, Carol, whenever you can, use stacking. It will line everything up on every setting. And I said, oh, I did see that. I didn't know what it was. And they said, all right. And so that helpful advice, oh my goodness, it probably saved me weeks, but also frustration. Awesome. And, mediumship is not just giving readings. It's really not. It's like you. When you have that high quality skill to be able to do mediumship on the move, I do channeling on the move. I go for a walk and talk with the teachers every morning, and they teach me something. If you have a day full of readings, you don't want to have to sit down to receive. But also, in real life, you're up and moving, and you're going places and doing things. And, if you have a flat tire, you can't run home and meditate and then sit down and receive. What do I do? Who do I call? How do I handle this? Is this going to impact my finances? Well, can you calm me down? Can you help me with my emotions? Can you just still my energy? You have to expect that there is guidance coming. But just like any other profession, and it is a profession, just like any other profession, you can't assume that it's overnight. You have to work at it. And it's recognizing that you are novice until you're a journeyman, until you're, at that master level. And if you're a novice, pat yourself on the back with that one, because, verbal guidance is powerful, but it's also helpful, and it's available, but it's not automatic. So if you're novice, you stepped into the one thing that your higher being was hoping you would find an interest in, which is verbal guidance. So be novice and be proud of it, and then do the mastery lesson and do the work, and then be excited and eager to see the evidence that more and better and more and better. So, a one sentence that says, you have enough time, and it's not you. That's wonderful, but you can't write a book with that. And so what the teachers are doing in Unfoldment series, and in next year it'll be called Enlightened series, is they are pushing energy into the video and into the room that each student is using for the class session, and they are moving energy around to cause the awake. Now, that's not something you find in a book. Or if I was teaching class all by myself, I can't do that. We can't do that. And so it takes no time at all, when you think about it, to sit down and do 3 to 12 minutes. And if you're a beginner, use a pendulum, or start at 3, and every few months use your pendulum and ask if you should increase your minute, or just say, my guide knows what I'm ready for, and they're going to take care of me. If you like round numbers and want to start at 5, start at 5. If you like round numbers and you just want to start at 10, start at 10. And if you say, I don't want to accept limitation, I'm going to start at 12, and my guide will work with me. If I'm not ready for that, I don't want to accept limitation, I want to go for the gold, then start at 12. But know that just because you're at 12 doesn't mean that you have mastery. But eventually, but that's confidence, right? I don't want to harm my self-esteem by starting at 3. That's just a mental block, because 3 minutes flies by. You do 3 minutes for a year. It doesn't take any time at all. And mastery will come without being intrusive to your day or your life. But it'll also turn out to be richer and more accurate than if you try to push yourself.
So beautiful. And it's so true. Carol, for our audience members who don't know, this isn't something that you had done for your whole life. And it was really in 2018 when you began silent meditation and that daily practice. And there was a calling for you to connect with that non-physical team. And I don't know any, and I say this truly, I've been in this community for a long time. I have never come across anybody that has completely trusted as you have with the teachers. I mean, your sense of trust. And I think that in that trust, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that as we begin to really trust our guides, it helps us break free from the limiting beliefs, and we grow, and they guide you. And some things that they guide you to, like for instance last year when they said, go to Italy, you do. You don't question it. You're like, okay, let's do it.
Yep. Yep. Well, and it's a harsh reality sometimes because intentions do play a part. And so you're right. I was not a spiritual person. I grew up Catholic, and when I was in 4th grade, I wanted to be a nun. By 5th grade, I didn't. But I still had that desire to be devout, but also knew it really wasn't my calling. And, life has a way of kind of meandering you around. But I was computer science. I worked on computers, network engineering and that kind of stuff. In 2018, I had a life happened, personal event, and I really needed emotional balance. I was trying to just get my mind straight so that I could think and handle the situation that I was going through. Everybody goes through relationship things. And so I found books on emotional intelligence. That was kind of my go-to to do the, professional textbook thing and to learn and learning in a proper fashion. And so I studied emotional intelligence for a little while. It's kind of my go-to, and then I would journal. But that's where I was introduced to meditation, short, silent meditation where you listen to nothing but the air. And then when I was introduced to that, it was like something clicked, and I did not miss a day. It was, and I'll be very honest with everybody, I love to exercise, and I love to do these challenges, and I ran the Marine Corps Marathon one year, and I had this exercise plan and what I was going to do every day. I did not do the exercise plan every single day. There were days that I missed. But with meditation, there was something in me that says, I have to. It was like this internal drive. And so I did, and I did not miss a day. 9 months later, just after meditation, is when my guide communicated with me for the first time. It was not clairvoyant nor channeled. It was by movement of my face, in cursive, left to right, obviously, kind of like a typewriter, but in cursive, and talked to me about creation, introduced themselves, and told me who they were, and then talked to me about creation and about love and about life, and that life is meant to be happy and that life was going to get better. And then about a month and a half later, they simply said in that verbal, nonverbal way, they said, would you allow us to speak out loud? And I simply, registered a yes back to them. And they said, just begin to speak. Say your name or something. And so I went to say my name, and they spoke out loud for about 20 minutes. And it was depth. And so I'll say intentions do matter. They do matter. And so not trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but you can't expect mastery on day one. And for me, it wasn't day one. It was 9 months of meditation, but it was also, I was 48 years old. I wasn't 30. And some people do have an occupation built in, which means that mastery will come easier. It's a built-in mastery. And sometimes when that skill surfaces later in life, then the components of it are there. And so there are people that have mastery from the get-go, but they're not young people. There's a gestation period, the way that teachers describe it. So even though it was built in for me to have it, and have it to the point where they could teach and answer questions, and that's a different skill, and then also to be able to sit in front of a video camera by myself and have them dictate books, is that all of these things are skill levels that are beyond the normal mediumship ability. And so it's not that I'm one of a kind, but that's not how it works for most people. Mm-hmm. But it can be learned. It can be taught, and it can be learned. And so there are people that have some high quality mediumship, and for me it's channeled. I also have clairvoyant, but channeled is the expressiveness, the facial expressions, the body movement, the tone of voice, the pauses, the way they phrase things, and they just have this. It's not monotone with me at all. It's beautiful. It is kind of conveyance, and so it's always nice to have your intentions mapped out for you, because if you know that you're supposed to do something, like I had someone in a reading the other day. She has within her soul intention to be international traveler, to be able to experience the culture. Now, not to go just on, adventure seeking, here and there and everywhere, but to witness and experience the culture, and then to be able to move around the world and feel at ease in a country where, the language is different. And she says, is that why I've just had this need? It's like I couldn't decide between real estate or travel industry, and neither one really felt really good. And they said, well, that's because real estate would help you earlier in life, but the drive to travel would be after your children had gone off to college or entered into their adult life. Then the drive and the need, the soul intention need. And she says, I'm feeling that. It's like I've never been a vacationer. And they said, well, it is going to start showing up. So don't bottle it up just because you haven't done it. So, intentions, there's also law of attraction to contend with, but when you have your intentions mapped out in a way that aligns to who you are, what your personality is, and who you've been, it just connects the dots a little bit, or a lot, really. But also, with something like mediumship, there's a lot of people that start, and they say, well, I just don't even know if I'm going to be any good at this. Nobody in my family has ever done it, but I just feel drawn to it. And don't add doubt, I guess is what I'm saying. Don't add doubt, because you might be someone that the teachers are drawing to them, because they are drawing people to them specifically that have it in their soul plan to have mediumship brought onto the surface, because that could be, just get it on the surface in this lifetime. Next lifetime, I'll dive into it a little deeper, or I might use it as an occupation. But this lifetime, I've got a lot of things going on in my soul plan, but I do not want to neglect the spiritual path, and so I would like mediumship to surface. And so they know what your intentions are, and they are drawing people to them from all over the world. I've only had this powerful ability for 5.5 years. I'm not going to tell you, they have students, but I have customers, and I like to say it that way, from Australia, New Zealand, Scotland, Ireland, Great Britain, Netherlands, Africa, Canada, Greece, Spain, France. It's not a lot of people in each country, but it certainly is evidence that they are wanting international exposure for the existential curriculum that they teach. It's they want good, healthy, verbal conversation so that you can be guided when you need help, or when you're stressed out, or if you're not sure to mow the lawn, or wait for another day. No. Everything's good. Law of attraction's on your side. Go get it done. You're all right. Today, you're all right. You might not always be all right in that 30-minute time, but today, perfect timing. Get it done. It's nice to have that conveyance. Right? It's nice to be told, do it, or not today. Save that for the weekend. There's other things that are going to crop up, and it's fun to see that validation. It happens a lot. Michael, you have some abilities too.
Pardon?
I said, Michael, you've got some abilities too. Don't want to leave you out of the conversation. Michael's if you don't mind me letting everybody know, I'll let you say it if you want to say
it. Well, yes, I am a channel. I have worked for my gosh, almost a year, 14, 15 months now. Yes, it does take a commitment to sit quietly every day, and I'm only human, and there's some days where when I'm off on a trip or I'm doing something that it's even more of a challenge. However, I come back and get right into it, and it's been a wonderful journey, one that I am continuing to have unfold for me, and I'm loving the journey. I don't know exactly where it will take me. I know that I have the intention to really let this skill blossom, and it is. I find it's really strange, because Lisa had this situation with mowing the lawn, and today I knew we were going to do this show at 3:30, and I had a lot of things to get done personally before then, and none of it did I ever. There was no doubt, no worry, no nothing. When I got done with it, I took a shower and I was ready to go. I was ready to sit down and slip into this comfortable the show that we do, which is so incredibly comfortable, that I love doing every week, that I look forward to. But yeah, I have connected with my guide, and I am continuing to the unfoldment of our relationship. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The channeled ability, that means, for all the listeners, that means the mediumship pathway is clairvoyant and then channeled. Clairvoyant and then channeled. So if you have some clairvoyant ability, channeled comes after that. It's not some get one and some get the other. If you're clairvoyant, you are ready for more. So if you're clairvoyant, has the opportunity to open up into channeled. But if you have channeled on the surface, you are both. And so who doesn't want both? And so it they call it channel rising when they kind of project the future, when they see that the ability and the willingness and the trust and the patience is all there, that the inner mind, the subconscious, is the one that does the receiving and the translation and then the presentation. And then our physical body experiences it. So the unconscious part of us, they call it the aspect, but subconscious mind is what they also call it. When the subconscious mind receives, it has to learn the skill of translating the complete message and translate it accurate. And then another component of the subconscious has to be willing to present it without flaws and without contamination. And so there's a process that the guide of that person, the teachers in the classes, has to, that's why meditation is there. It's a healing moment, but it's a process. They're doing something in meditation. So I say, it's not just a quiet moment to yourself, because it's not quiet contemplation. It is not a time to practice and see if you can receive. Mediumship meditation is, they call it unfoldment meditation, is silent. You're trying to stop active thought from being in your awareness field. And so, whatever you think you can do, but try 3 minutes. It's a nice entry point. And one of the techniques that they always use is to just gently lift a finger. Keep your hand, get all comfortable on the couch, curl up on the couch and sit up. There's a different thing that happens when you lay down, and the mind sometimes falls asleep, and then the mediumship moment doesn't get attention. And so, sit up, get all curled up, no lotus position with any mudras, just be comfortable. Don't have a rigid body, because rigid body, rigid mind. Rigid body, rigid mind equals rigid subconscious. And if the subconscious is rigid, then it might not pay attention to the lesson that's happening in meditation. And so it's just get nice and comfortable, set your timer, and then close your eyes. And if a thought comes in, now a thought is music or to-do list or an image or seeing colors morph in and out. Your guide is not trying to talk to you in meditation. They are pushing energy into the subconscious mind so that it will relax and trust them. And it's not a verbal conversation. It's not a human language conversation. It's energy work. Mm-hmm. And it's a slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race every single time. In that case, it does. And so it's so Michael has had channeled rise to the surface, and it's so nice to hear you say, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this blossoms. And that's the key is, you can be novice, intermediate, advanced, or at that professional level, but recognizing where you are, I'm hoping that this goes somewhere. I'm eager for more. I've got positive emotion. I've got confidence. It's the self-talk. If you perceive that you have, if you perceive that you have mastery and you don't, then overconfidence steps in, and then it creates a limitation. You could cap yourself at a certain level and say, well, this is my perception of professional level, expert level. But keep the pathway open. There's always more and exquisite. There's depth of conversation. There's length in the channeled. You can have exquisite, perfect, beautiful 5-minute conveyance of, some kind of upliftment message. But isn't it even more fun to be able to do 45 minutes? Yeah. And so that length of time, blossoming into more is more and different, better, richer. It's a flower that doesn't unbloom. It just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. It's like a magic flower.
Yes.
Truly. And may I just, and Michael, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but Michael had always been a meditator. And it wasn't until he had a reading from Carol with the teachers coming through that he was tuned into the fact that his guide was really wanting him to come through and be channeled. And I remember the call that I got. There was so much excitement in your voice, Michael. You were just over the moon. And one of the things that I know you devoted the time, and this is the value of actually scheduling a reading with Carol and the teachers, is that it was recorded, and you were devoted to listening to that channeling, that particular channeling that you received every day, putting more and more of it into the grid so that you could bring yourself to that point where you could start receiving. And it wasn't without frustration. Am I correct?
I believe that my expectations and my perceptions of it were a little bit misaligned initially, and had a second reading with, or second or third reading with Carol, and the teachers helped me, and my guide helped me understand that there were some things, you could, I guess, misinterpretations on my part about the expectations I had, the things that I thought would come through. Once I got through that, and I just relaxed, and I just did exactly what the teachers told me, and Carol and the teachers told me to do. I will tell you that the most interesting thing is that when the channeling is complete, when the message that I'm being given is complete, that conversation, the amount of time that's gone by, it's amazing. And when I sit to transcribe it, I'm thinking to myself, I really didn't say more than about, 2 or 3 sentences. And it just goes on and on. Oh, God, wait a minute here. Hold on. I said all of this? And it's really, really, it's gratifying to know that I have this ability that I'm developing that is blossoming for me. And I verify and validate that the information that I'm transcribing, that it's truly from my guide, and that there is no contamination. And in the beginning, Carol did tell me, there'll be some contamination in the beginning, and then it'll flow through. And I said, fine. And I validate that out and start looking at the rest of it. And there's some beautiful messages. I mean,
there is. There's always some contamination.
Yeah, always.
Until there's not. And so when the teachers describe it, they say they're asking the physical body to say out loud words that they have crafted. This is the message. Would you say this message? And they say, it's just a little funny. Some people like to wordsmith. Some people, you hear somebody describe something, and then when you go to describe it, you put your own flair to it. And they say in the beginning, the mind does that. This is the crafted message. Would you say it? Sure, I'll say something like that. And then words flow. And the words flow, but it doesn't mean that it meets the literal intent nor the word for word accuracy. And both are important. The thing is, sometimes it's let's say the channeled moment was 4 sentences, but the human body talks for 5 minutes. That means that the human body may have channeled those 4 sentences, but then also felt the desire to amplify, because you got to remember, in a channeled moment there is source energy floating through you, the physical body and the chakra system, and when that non-physical energy is felt, it's rapture, it's bliss, it's purity. It's you can't align it to a feeling, but the subconscious mind says, that's non-physical love. Oh, I could talk all day with that love around me. And then the physical body will. And so, the messages are always longer in the beginning, but also colorful, or there's a twist of the analogy or of the description, and that gets trained out of the subconscious mind in meditation. And eventually it learns to stick to the message, and that's it. They call it respect the pause and respect the end card. And so, it's a powerful thing to validate. But, when you use the pendulum to validate, you do have to wait a minute between each question. And there have been some, frustration moments with students where they say, I'm not getting anything correct. And but in the reading, they said, in the evaluation, they said that I was doing, around 30 to 40%, but my pendulum work is saying none of it. And I said, well, there's a trick to this. If the first word is incorrect and you are using a pendulum too quickly, your questions are too quick in succession, then you might get a series of no, 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 because the energy needs to filter away from the pendulum and then begin again. And so, but also the opposite. There's over accurate, under accurate with a pendulum. Just wait a minute in between. Wait 1 minute in between. And a good way to start is, was any of this received? And it's always from your guide. Was any of this received? If you get a yes, then wait a minute and ask one more question. Was any of it accurately presented? And if you get a yes, if you're a beginner, then just pat yourself on the back and walk away from the validation and just say, I did it.
Yes,
and let that be enough in the beginning. I did it. And because if you go, let's say you've got 30 words there, and you find out that 2 of them were accurate, 2 of them were received, and the rest the mind contaminated. Well, that's a hit to the self-esteem probably. And so, if you're a beginner, do the meditation for 9 months before you practice, and let it just be, it's not overnight, but 9 months isn't that long, and you will have some verbalness after that 9-month mark. And then simply take a pendulum. Was any of this, do your meditation in 9 months. Right after meditation, do your first practice session. Yeah. Was any of this received? Was any of it presented accurately?
It takes time, and the validation is incredibly important. And I will tell you that I've had in the beginning that exact same situation where some words were some of the words did not come from my guide. My mind can be pretty creative. I mean, my mind can really jump in there. So I mean, so I could make that happen, and it took time, and I still have patience. People have to be patient. We're always this whole impatience thing happens. But I'd like you to speak to because I think there's some people who are going to hear this and they're going to want to move in this direction with you. And the only thing I can say is that one of the things that people need to understand is that this is a personal journey. It's a personal journey. And you can't let other people you may speak to about what you're doing sway you in a different direction if it's something you really feel in your heart that you need to do. Because we're in relationships, we have families, we have friends, and not everybody is going to be on board with your excitement. And I'm only saying this because we have to understand that it's a personal journey, and a journey that it's our soul's intention, our soul's one of the little check marks on our list of intentions that we have decided to explore in this life. And we do live in a 3D world though, with other people, and a lot of people have outside influences that may decide that that's not a good thing for you, or wow, why would you do something like that? That sounds so silly. That sounds crazy. They're going to give you all kinds of thought viruses. I would say work through those. Have a session with Carol and begin to do your 3 minutes or more of meditation as you feel necessary, as Carol just mentioned, and just keep going with it. Make it a personal mission, because there are right now in the world, and I was in this. I was meditating. I was sitting quietly 40 years ago for 40 minutes. I was sitting quietly, and I was feeling the love. I was feeling love. It was awesome. It's different than what I'm doing now. And there's a lot of guided meditation out there. Guided meditation, everybody's got one. Everyone has one. Everywhere you look, there's a guided meditation, but it's not the meditation that Carol's talking about here. And that's the one distinction that I think that needs, the two things that need to be understood, is that it is completely different. I had to change everything. I had to totally just shift from this guided meditation thing that I was doing to really getting quiet and getting everything out of my mind. And it can be a little bit of a challenge at first.
It is a common experience. If you don't grow up in a household or community where mediumship is talked about or used, but also the world is doing a lot of psychic readings, and psychic is using, you call it a thought virus, but that's when you're drawing a negative thought or negative emotion. But it is an exchange of thought energy, and an exchange of thought energy is between two people, not your non-physical team. And so psychic readings are thought energy between people. And the teachers are very clear about that. And they say, but thought energy exchange, that's what you're wanting to use to manifest something. And so, it's just terminology does make a difference. And so let's say meditation is meditation and quiet contemplation is quiet contemplation. And so when you are doing, the private guided meditation to get your emotions in check, or mantra meditation to manifest something, if you're using mantra meditation, I will find joy, and I will use it, and I will be it. It will be what I manifest. It will be who I am. It will be what I engage with, and I will have peace within, and I will have joy and a lifestyle that is pleasing to me. I will love my life. Now that's nice, and it's beautiful. It's good. Okay, but what the perspective is, I will manifest this. I will manifest this. I will create this. I will create this. Because you're saying, I will, I will, I will. And it's the human being that is putting themselves in a front and center position and saying, I want to take charge of my life and do it with intention. And that's good. But that also means that you are shifting your thought pattern and shifting your energy, but you're also influencing yourself. So you can get, a barrage of negativity, but you could also get some people that are powerfully excited that you're, embarking upon the mediumship journey. But it is less common than, computer science or becoming an attorney or something like that. It's like, you live in a small town and you decide that you want to be an actor or an actress, and so you move to L.A. Why did you do that? Why? What are you doing? You're going to ruin your life. No, it's what I feel drawn to do. And so every walk of life, people have opinions. Let's just say people have opinions, and if those opinions do not align with your joy, then don't share your joyful idea with that person. Let it gestate, let it build, and then share with others. And it's a little bit like thought exchange exists, and that is psychic nature. So use thought exchange in part of your manifesting, because you exchange thought with your memory, you add to it, you influence yourself, in other words, and that's what thought exchange is, thought virus. It is influence. And so you can influence yourself. That's quiet contemplation with a purpose. But silent meditation is, I don't have the capability to train my subconscious mind to do mediumship. I can do quiet contemplation in addition, and that's a beautiful thing to do. That would sound something like, I love my guide. I love the idea of having perfect, accurate conversations with my guide, two-way dialogue. I love the idea of mediumship coming to me nice and easy with accuracy. I love the idea of channeling so that my guide can express themselves in the way that they're wanting. I love that idea. I love it. I want it. I'm eager for it. And it's good to have conversations with my guide. It is good. And so using present tense and the word I like, I love, it is a personal influencer. Mm-hmm. And it's, that's a way to use law of attraction, but also receive the direct energy work that's requirement to bring it out. Now, Michael, you've meditated for decades, for longer than 12 minutes. And so, the teachers do say, now, we're going to be straightforward with, you can do mantra meditation, and then in 3 or 4 decades, channeled will rise to the surface. But don't you want to use it in about 3 or 4 years, not 40? Mm-hmm. And so, yes, meditation with the intent to balance your emotions and have peace and feel good and to bring peace to your life and to have that powerful positive outlook. Well, over time, the subconscious mind will gravitate towards, okay, I'm ready now. And it will allow itself to be trained. But if you are wanting it and you want to use it and you don't want to wait 30 or 40 years, and that's no joke. They said everybody by the age of 70 will have verbal connection. It will be spontaneous, not necessarily on demand, and perhaps not standing up or mowing the lawn, but some of your thoughts will be coming from your guide, some of them, by the time you're 70. By the time you're 80, you will have personal guidance, whether you know it or not. Some of your thoughts will be, I need to get this done. Some of your personal thoughts at 70 will not be your own. And more of them, and in the way of personal guidance, more of your thoughts at 80 will not be your own. But human population, we don't have to wait that long. There's an easier route. There's a faster, quicker route. And it's use a small. Now they say, why 3 to 12? Well, 3 is the magic number that tells the subconscious mind, prepare yourself to learn. And so some people do start at 3 minutes because the mind has to be reminded, prepare yourself to learn, prepare yourself to learn. Now, it could be someone that didn't get good grades in school or that decided to not go to college or had negative self-talk about their learning capability, or maybe they just have not been in a learning environment for 2 or 3 decades. It runs the gamut. But that 3-minute mark is prepare yourself, subconscious mind, to learn again, to learn. And at 12, they say, That is the master number, which also equals 3, which is prepare yourself to use what you have learned. So 3-minute mark is prepare yourself, subconscious mind, to embark upon the learning journey. 12, which is an amplified 3, 1 plus 2 is 3, is prepare yourself, subconscious mind, to use that which you have learned, which means manifest it to your physical human being. And so it's a mastery number. 12 is the master number because 1 plus 2 is 3, which is advancement. And then when you continue, then you advance and you deepen and you strengthen the depth and the substance and the quality of the content. Nobody wants to have a channeled message that comes out more or less the same every time, but slightly different. You want it to be teaching. After a while, you want it to be, well, this is nice, but I sure would like some different substance to it. That takes meditation. It just becomes a way of life. It just becomes a way of life. But if you have 40 years of emotional balance meditation, which is what you were doing, then over time, you'll have a session with the teachers, and they'll say, well, you don't know it, but you're ready. Although the part of you that has to push it to the physical plane, it has the desire, but it does need a little push. It's like a little stage fright. Push it to the surface. It has gestated. You have been sitting on it for a long while, and now it's time to use it. And so that's what happened to Michael. It's beautiful, and it's a beautiful thing to just acknowledge. I have a guide who is a master teacher, and they are working with my physical body, but also my subconscious mind. And everything has to filter through the subconscious mind first, and then manifest to our physical life. So give different words. I think me personally, separating the two, guided meditation helps you to manifest using your own personal law of attraction, your own personal magnetic desire. And so quiet manifesting time and meditation time, or meditation and my healing moment. Whatever you do, pick 2 words and stay consistent. One is when you are using your own voice, your own thought, and your own emotions to hopefully manifest what you're wanting. Use 1 word for that. And then pick another word for that silent time to bring the awakening about. When you separate the 2 activities, using them with the same word, this is meditation, that's meditation, the mind says, that's a little confusing. I can work with it, but that's a little confusing. And so if you just give it 2 different terms, then the mind says, oh, learn from my guide and use positive thoughts. I can do that. That's easy. That's easy. When the subconscious mind says that's easy, that means that it has seatbelted itself into the student role. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to learn. Give me what you got. I'm ready to learn. Because it's negative emotion is also, it's confusion, it's doubt, it's worry, it's frustration, it's I don't know if I can, I've never done this before, what are people going to think? And so it's emotions, emotional phrases, and our personal thought pattern. Self-talk is it's a powerful influence. And Lisa, I know you wanted to talk about the power of me time and the power of what I say to myself matters. And I think your guide has been kind of giving you some thoughts this whole conversation. Do you want to express them?
Well, I just want to say, for me anyway, and being part of the art of self-healing, it's been a journey for me this lifetime, and to know that I have value and I can take that time and make that time, and the same with Michael making that time, or you, Carol. And I think for any of our audience members, if you're at all curious when you go to Channeling the Teacher, there is so much value in knowing that we are not alone, that we are connected to source energy, and that we have these loving beings that are here to guide us. And all the trivial stuff that comes down our pike, any obstacles. I mean, if you gleaned anything from this time, no matter what it is that Carol was up against, or me, or Michael for that matter, knowing that we have these wonderful teachers that are around us that want to help us on our journey, to me that is loving. It's being loving to myself. It's saying that I have value, that this is important to me, and it's important to my journey, and I don't want to wait 40 years.
Right,
I'm ready for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would encourage.
Although at that 40-year mark, it does rise to the surface in a way that says, I just did it. I didn't know I had it in me. It's a push to the surface, not a baby step. It's nobody wants to tiptoe into manifesting something. If you want a Mercedes-Benz, you don't want to wait until you're 90 to buy it. You want it when you're
for sure.
when you're wanting to show it off. And so it's like this. Take the time it takes, but it will take less time if you do it within those two master numbers, between 3 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. There's value in listeners. There's one thing that I can attest to: greater self-love. I really love myself a whole lot more for connecting with my guide. I don't know why. It's just I don't know. There's a level of confidence, a level of
relief.
Yeah. That's very good, wouldn't it? Release, and knowing that. I mean, with absolute certainty that you're not alone.
Right, and that's what relief is to the subconscious. It's I'm really not here in the physical world by myself. Meaning, you have physical people, but I'm really not all by myself. There really is some place to go when this life completes, because that being is sending transcendence energy. And so the subconscious, when that awakening begins, it when you're kind of you're tense, and then the right thought occurs, or someone says the right thing, and you just relax about whatever is coming up. It's like ultimate relaxation. The mind says, "Oh, I was hoping that I wasn't alone, but now I know I'm not." And when it relaxes into that teacher-student relationship, which is really what it is. And then it starts to learn in ways that, I was doing this website, and thank you, Lisa, for all the compliments on it, but, there were some mouse clicks that, it's not that I was using physical intuition, because the guys can do that too, but it was more like, let me see what this one does. And then I think I want to hit this button. Oh, wow. That's a cool trick. And so sometimes in sleep, they don't talk to us like conversation in sleep, but they do plant a seed of, if you do this, and this in sequence, that thing that you're going to do around 11 a.m. is going to go just fine. And then, lo and behold, 11 a.m., click, 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 click. Wow. I've been messing with that for a week. How did that just all of a sudden click, 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 and all of a sudden it's right in front of me? Because they can do that too. So mediumship is, daytime conversation. Although it's not always conversation. My parents both, their life completed, and I say passed away for those that like that term, in 2020 and 2021. And, I was trying to fix a door handle for my mother after my dad passed. And I promised her that I would do it before my visit ended. And I didn't do it, and I didn't do it, and I didn't do it. And it was hanging over me. And then after she went to bed on my last night, it was about 12:30 at night, and I said, oh, please, Dad. And I did ask my dad. Of course my guide is there, and I made that acknowledgement, but I said, Dad, can you help me get this done? I have no idea how to do it. And she had to switch it from one side to the other, which means you have to switch the freezer connection and all that, so it's all working. And I was doing it, and he said, Carol, second shelf on the left. And that's all he said, because I was in the mode of thinking and a little worried I wasn't going to get it done and tired. And so he simply said, Carol, second shelf on the left. And then my eyes moved over to his workbench. And I went over there, and there was the socket wrench that I needed because I was struggling. And I just said, oh, relief is powerful. And relief can show up in verbal things like that. But, when I told my mom about that, she said, well, we didn't really talk about it much, but, your dad and I had some abilities too. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, whenever we're on the golf cart, my parents lived in a gated community. Whenever we're on the golf cart, usually Saturday afternoon, your father smells cigar smoke, and his dad always smoked cigars. But also, when my grandmother passed, when we were at the wake, your dad and I both had a simultaneous physical sensation and then a memory. And my dad said, wow, you just got a little chill. My arm is tingling. Yeah. But I remember when my mom did this, and my mom, whose name is Sharon, she said, Dan, I just had the same memory, like right now. And so it was a simultaneous tingle sensation and a memory. And they said, it's they said, my mom said, Carol, it's not what the teachers teach, because they sound like ancient prophets, the way that they talk about creation of the world. And I said, yeah, I know, I love it. But they go into mechanics. And she said, but, mediumship surfaces. Every time I went into the laundry room, I had an image of reaching into the cabinet. And when I had an image where the cabinet didn't open, I over time, I figured out I'm out of laundry soap or dryer sheets. And she said it just, after a while, the image, it's there. The image, it's there. If she saw the door opening, then she had dryer sheets and laundry soap. And she said, but after a while, I would start seeing the door close, and it didn't click initially. But after a while, I realized when that image shows up, I'm out of one or both. And then she started to use the visual capacity. Words are good, but images are also helpful if you pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fun.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that insight. And I don't know where our time goes. It just seems to disappear. And I would invite all of our audience members, please do go to channelingtheteachers.com. You will find out about the workshops and the private readings and the classes. And there's a wonderful Synergy magazine and some of the subscriptions to membership that if you are interested in joining. Also the books and so much more. I mean, it's just absolutely packed. And I just want to thank you so much, Carol and Michael, for your time and for joining us. And we can't wait to have you back so we can continue the conversation. Is there anything anytime. You want to leave our audience with?
I want to say this. Lisa is happy person. It's the joyfulness that you just add energetically. And then when you combine the two of you together, it's like this dynamic duo of, positive meets positive, and it's like a vibration. And it's always, it's like thank you for mentioning the interviews. I do the interviews and the podcasts and the different things with others, and they're all wonderful. And I know no harm to anyone. They're always good, but there's just something about the gentle feel when the two of you combine your energies, and I love Connect to Love in these monthly conversations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a healing environment of a different kind. It just feels like the three of us are sitting on the phone chit-chatting. But it is also for the listeners, and the teachers are guiding the energy to make sure that that you have listeners and that they listen.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Such a
thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And we love you, Carol.
Until next,
always.
Love you, Carol. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. Back at you, both of you.
Thank you. And until next time.